Alrighty, so I think we are going to get started. Hi everyone, and welcome to the Student Experience Office's Living in Residence June webinar. I did just want to acknowledge that Queen's University is situated on traditional Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee territory. It's important for all of us to acknowledge our positionality and the privilege that we have to reside on the land where we presently are. I encourage you to learn about the history that has brought you to reside on the land that you are situated on, and I hope you seek to understand your place within that history. So before we get started, I did just want to introduce who is helping us out today. So we will start off with myself. Hello, my name is Veronica. I use she, they pronouns. I just finished my fourth year at Queen's in Gender Studies. This summer, I am the SOAR Student Assistant at the Student Experience Office. Behind the scenes, we have a couple people helping out. So we have Lindsay, Nathan, Angela, Jess, and Hannah all answering your questions. If you do have questions, you are welcome to submit them using the Q&A function at the bottom of Zoom. We will do our best to answer them using the Q&A function, but try and keep your questions to the end because we will probably answer your questions throughout the presentation. Today, I am also joined by the Director of Residence Life and Services, Kate Murray, and the Manager of Residence Life Operations, Becky Shillington. So now I'm going to pass it over to Kate and Becky to lead us with the presentation.
Hi, everyone. I'm so glad that everyone was able to join us. So we wanted to start by just sort of reviewing our commitment to equity, diversity, inclusion, and indigeneity in residence. And I'm going to read this slide and just ask that everybody sort of sit with it and consider how it applies to you and what it would mean for you in residence. We are strengthened and enriched by our diverse backgrounds, perspectives, and lived experiences. We acknowledge that identity is multidimensional and understand privilege as dynamic and situated. We acknowledge that we have much work still to do to create and sustain our vision for a fully inclusive residence environment that is welcoming to all students. We acknowledge the harms done by our colonial past and are committed to doing what is necessary to alter the deeply entrenched behaviors and structures that perpetuate inequities. We are actively working to eliminate discrimination, injustice, and violence, and engage our communities in dialogue and action. We welcome the participation of our students as we move forward on these important initiatives. If these statements do not reflect your values, living in residence may not be for you. Okay, so I'm going to review a timeline just of important dates coming up. So if you're going to remember a few things from this presentation, this is probably one of them. The week of July 5th, you will receive an email with your self-selection date and time. And then self-selection will be occurring where you choose your residence room from July 13th to July 29th. In early August, we will start the room swap process. So if you are able to choose a room and then you change your mind or you're interested in getting a new room, we'll talk about that process. And then in early August, there's an opportunity to sign up for your move-in date and time. Move-in will occur over 4 days from September 1st to the 4th, and each student will be assigned a date and a time that you'll be able to choose at that time. A note as well, your date for the self-selection will be selected by lottery. So those that receive dates and times at the beginning of process will have more choice of rooms than those who receive dates and times near the end of the selection process. So that just sort of when you get your date, you'll have an idea of where in the process you are. Next slide, please. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about our buildings and our residence programs so that as we talk through the rest of the slides, you'll have a little bit more of context of who we are. So here at Queen's, we have 17 residence buildings and 3 dining halls. We have 4,140 students living with us this year and 160 student leaders to support the student experience. Each of our residence buildings is unique. Our oldest building, Banry Hall, was built in 1925, and our newest buildings, Brant and Smith, were built in 2015. That means that each building has different sizes, different furnishings, different layouts, and even within the same building, your room may not look at all like your neighbor's room. We have various different room types, including single, plus, and double rooms. And as I said earlier, you will get to choose your room. So you will get to look at different buildings, different room types, and you'll be able to select the individual bed space that you would like to have. So you could be near a library, the athletics and recreation center. You can think about where your classes are and choose the building and the room type that fit best for you.
So we wanted to walk you through what the self-selection process looks like when you receive your date and time. So what you'll do at your appointed time is you'll log into the student residence and dining portal, and there's a little icon with a wand. You click on the resident self-selection icon. From a drop-down menu, you can select your room type. So the choices this year are single, single plus, or double. If you're going to be living in a living learning community, or you've applied to live in a preferred community, or you indicated a double room as your preference on your application, you will only see those room types or buildings that meet your preference. So for example, if you're chosen to live in an LLC and you've been accepted, which we're going to talk about in a minute, those are placed in specific buildings on specific floors. So you won't be able to pick your building or your floor, but you will be able to pick your specific room. After you've kind of filtered by room type, then you're going to select the campus. So you'll either select West Campus, which is where Jean Royce Hall is, or you'll select Main Campus, and that will further filter your choices. Then next, you're going to select your building. So the interface has a campus map where you can see where the buildings are located. The buildings that are highlighted in yellow have your selected room type available. And if there's any buildings indicated in red, it means that your room type is not available in that building, or that building is already full. Next, you're going to pick your floor. So again, only the floors that are available will be indicated in yellow, and the others will be indicated in red. And then finally, you're going to select your room. So you'll get to look at a floor plan of that particular floor. And you can choose the exact room that you want to live in. So some things that we think you might want to be considering are how close or far from certain amenities on the floor that you might want to live near or far away from. So you might be thinking about where the elevator or the stairwell is, where the common room is, where the washrooms are, and then pick according to preferences that you may have. When you're selecting your room, all of the beds available to you on the floor will be indicated with a little bed icon in those particular rooms. If no bed icon is shown, the room is not available. If you're living in a double room, available beds will be indicated in green. If the room has one red bed and one green bed, then that means another student has chosen the bed space indicated in red. And if you go ahead and choose the other bed, then that person will become your roommate. So once you've made your choice and you've kind of clicked on your space, you initiate a hold when you lock in your choice by clicking on that bed. The space gets placed on hold for you for 10 minutes, and then there's a countdown clock to show how much time is left to finalize your selection. So during that time, if you decide, nope, this isn't the room I want, you can exit from there and go back and pick a different room. Or if you do decide, yes, this is my final choice, you just need to click finish, and that's all. And you must click finish before the timer runs out. So it's important to note that when you confirm your room selection, you'll also be confirming your agreement with our residence contract and the residence community standards, and those will be posted for you to review when you're doing your self-selection. These are the documents that outline what our expectations are for living in the communal environment that is residence respectfully and safely. So it is our expectation that you familiarize yourself with those documents before you sign off on them. Next slide, please, Veronica. So we wanted to talk a little bit about living learning communities and preferred communities. So some folks that are with us tonight would have identified that they had applied to live in an LLC or a preferred community. Those preferred communities being the study floor, an all-female identified floor, an all-male identified floor, or an alcohol and cannabis not preferred community. So when you receive your self-selection date and time, it will also let you know if you have been successful in having a space in one of those communities. And again, like I said earlier, only the spaces on those particular floors or in those particular buildings will be available to you if you've been selected to live in one of those communities. Next slide, Veronica, please. So we also wanted to talk a little bit about approved accommodations. So we've also received health accommodation and non-health accommodation requests from lots of folks. So anyone that has an approved health or non-health accommodation will be able to select from rooms that meet their accommodation. If you have submitted an accommodation and haven't received a response from us yet, We are still working through the requests, and we will confirm details with you before you receive your self-selection date and time. When you go to make your selection, you'll be able to filter the rooms based on what your accommodated need is. So if you have an approved accommodation for a room that's carpet-free, or for a private washroom or a semi-private washroom, you'll be able to indicate that among other choices when you pick your room. If you do have several different approved accommodations, we will work with you directly to ensure that all of your needs are met. So this may mean that you won't be able to do your own self-selection just based on what rooms may be available to you, but we'll connect with you and chat that through. The other thing to note is that if you do have an approved accommodation, during your self-selection time period, you will have access to a broader inventory of rooms, and they may not all meet your accommodated needs. So just make sure that you are picking a room that meets your approved accommodation. So for example, if you have an accommodation for a carpet-free room, when you go into select, there will be enough carpet-free rooms to meet everyone's needs that needs one, but also carpeted rooms will be in the list. So just make sure that you're picking one that is appropriate for your accommodated need. Okay, and then the next slide is about if you made a roommate grouping and during the application process, and both yourself and the person that you identified to be in your roommate group agreed to that and selected that you wanted to live in a double room through the application process. So this piece is finished. So if that was something that you were hoping to do, but you didn't do it as part of the application process, unfortunately, it's not available anymore. But we did want to let people know that if you are in a roommate grouping and have a preferred roommate, that during the self-selection period, whichever one of you has the better or the earlier self-selection date and time, you will be picking that room on both of your behalf. So make sure you're connecting with your preferred roommate once you get your self-selection date and time, figuring out who's got the first time, and then talking about what buildings or floors do you want to live on, and the first person will pick that for both of you. So the person that has the later date and time will not self-select. It'll only be the first person in your roommate group. And then the next slide. So these are just some tips that we hope will help you be successful and allow you to make the choices that you're hoping to make. So we really do encourage you to have a look ahead of time before your self-selection window opens on our website at our building pages. There are pictures, there's videos, there's information from students that have previously lived in those buildings that are talking about the things that they like best. We have a campus map on every building page indicating where the building is located in proximity to amenities, other academic buildings, the library, the athletic and recreation center. So whatever is important to you in terms of where what you would like to live close to, you can see that on the campus map on those building pages. And there's also a floor plan available. So again, you can go ahead in advance and look and see, okay, I want to live on the 4th floor because I think I'm going to have a view of the lake, or whatever the case may be. So you can be looking at those in advance. As we talked about earlier, many of our buildings are unique and have many different sizes and styles of rooms. So you won't be able to see exactly what the room you're picking looks like. You can see it on a floor plan, but we don't have other imaging available of all of our rooms at this time. We really recommend that you have several selections in mind when you log in to pick your room. This will be especially important if you have a later date and time slot, as the rooms that you were hoping for may have already been selected by someone else. So we just really encourage you to come with an open mind and have lots of picks available, and we think that will help with your success. Do log in at your designated time. Each time slot will be approximately 20 to 30 minutes before the next time slot begins. So based on some modeling that we've done, that should give everyone enough time to pick the room that they're looking for before the next group gets access to the system. If you have any questions when you're going through the process or you're running into any difficulties, please connect with us on live chat, which you can access through our website. And we'd be happy to help if there's any questions or issues that you're facing. And then just to note that once you've made your selection and clicked on that finish button to confirm, you can't change it. So please make sure that you're happy with your selection before you confirm your choice. And then don't forget to lock in your room by clicking finish. If you're not able to log in at your designated time, so you get a certain date and time and you have a commitment or you're just not available at that time, your self-selection window will not close. It will remain open until the end of the self-selection period for that particular group. So you don't need to be concerned that you're not available. You can just kind of roll in with the next few groups as necessary. Next slide, please.
Okay, we're going to switch gears a little bit and I'm going to talk about the meal plan. So the residence meal plan is included in your residence fee, and it works in all 3 of our all you care to eat dining halls identified here, and also in retail locations across campus. So the meal plan itself has 3 components. The first is 19 all you care to eat dining hall meals per week, and they reset every week. This ensures that you have enough meals to last you for the entire school year and you don't have to budget them over a semester. The second component is 200 trade-a meals or TAMs, which allow you to trade in one of your dining hall meals for a designated trade-a meal combo in retail up to 200 times during the year. And the last component is $145 in Flex to use in retail food locations. Flex dollars work like cash loaded onto your student card that you can use on snacks, coffee, or to add something extra to your TAM. Throughout the year, more Flex can be added to your student card in any amount at any time during the year. And as an extra bonus this year, all resident students are automatically opted into our Eco Container program, which helps us to reduce single-use containers on campus. Safety precautions will be in place for COVID-19 across dining and retail, according to public health guidelines, including where required things such as plexiglass barriers and sanitizing stations to keep our students and our staff safe during these times. You can learn more information about your meal plan, the reusable eco container program, COVID-19, and so much more at dining.queensu.ca and on our social media at Queen's Food. Next slide. We take great care in supporting our students who have food allergy or other dietary needs at Queen's. Alongside our Ask Before You Eat campaign with daily access to knowledgeable chefs and managers, support includes the True Balance Station and the gluten-free pantry in our dining halls. Entrees served at the True Balance station are prepared with ingredients that do not contain common food allergens, and students with celiac disease and gluten intolerance can access gluten-free items, along with a dedicated gluten-free toaster and preparation area in our gluten-free pantry. Wherever you are living on campus, Hospitality Services has measures in place to ensure that you will be provided with a safe, nutritious, and delicious meal. Students with allergy and dietary needs are encouraged to complete the online allergy and dietary need intake form and meet with a member of the hospitality team prior to arriving on campus. In these meetings, you will have an informal discussion about how Hospitality Services can best support you so that your food is both safe and enjoyable. More information on how your allergy and dietary needs can be accommodated is found on dining.queensu.ca and through the links identified on this slide. I'm sure that there are lots of questions about vaccinations. So we strongly encourage everyone who will be living in residence to get fully vaccinated as soon as they are available to you, particularly if you intend to live in a double room. When you applied to residence, you were asked about your intention to be vaccinated. Just so that everybody knows, 97% of applicants indicated that they intend to receive the COVID-19 vaccine as soon as it is available to them. When you do self-select your room, we will be collecting data with respect to vaccination status. This is going to help us plan for availability of second doses if needed to ensure that we have supply available at clinics offered at Queen's, and to help us plan for some operational considerations such as increasing common room capacity and the delivery of in-person programming. You are also strongly encouraged to ensure that you're up to date on all other vaccines, including the flu shot when it becomes available. Next slide. And so finally, as we wrap up, I just wanted to take a couple minutes to talk about residents move in. So as I said at the beginning of the presentation, it will take place from September 1st to 4th. And in early August, you will be able to select your move-in date and time via the student portal. So we will push more information about that out to you later in the summer. There will be 2-hour windows available on each day between 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. And our website will have lots more information, including driving routes, as we get closer to September. So we just encourage you to keep an eye on that, and we will post more information as the routes are finalized and as we get closer to the big days.
All right, so thank you very much, Kate and Becky, for that overview of what students can expect in the self-selection process, dining, move-in, and everything residence related in general. So now we are going to move on to the Q&A portion of this webinar. I am seeing some questions begin to enter the Q&A, which is great. Remember that you can submit your questions in the Q&A box, which is located at the bottom of your screen. But we're going to get started with reading out some of these. So there is one, just to clarify the date for residents move-in and how residents move-in will work.
Yep, so the dates are Wednesday, September 1st through till Saturday, September 4th. And like Becky said, people have the opportunity to select their own date and time in early August. And we'll have more information as the planning continues. The other thing I was going to share is that we will be doing a move-in webinar sometime in early August. So we will be able to answer more specific questions about move-in at that time as well.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Our next question is about COVID safety measures in residence. Will students have to wear a mask, etc.?
Yep, I can answer that one. So we work very closely with our public health office here in Kingston, Frontenac, Lennox, and Addington, and also obviously responding to any provincial or federal government regulations. So currently, masks will be required to be worn in all public residence spaces. So not you in your own room, but if you're out in any common spaces in residence. Limits on gathering sizes will also be required as they are currently legislated. Common areas such as floor lounges will be open. There will be capacity limits in place, again, to sort of respect the current legislation. Limits on in-person programming and activities, particularly within the first 6 weeks of term. So again, we're going to try to be flexible and try to balance that with student safety. And then there are quarantine requirements still federally for international travelers. And so Queens will be able to accommodate students who are traveling internationally to arrive to campus in September.
Perfect. All righty. Question about roommates. So if I have a roommate, will I have the opportunity to meet or get in touch with them prior to move-in?
Yes. So after you complete your self-selection process, if you don't know the person that you're going to be sharing a room with, it will be shared with you, both of you, via the student residence and dining portal after the selection process has wrapped up. And so then you can choose to get in touch with each other and provide each other's email addresses to do so.
Okay, great. Question about upper year students. Are there upper year students in residence as well, or is it just going to be first year students this year?
So this year, only first year students will be living in residence. With that being said, as I mentioned earlier, we have 160 upper year student staff members. So those are the residence dons, and then as well as our residence society, which is the student government in residence. So other than those 160 student staff who help to support everyone, it's just first year students in residence for this year.
Okay, great. Do the current COVID regulations allow me to have a visitor temporarily stay in my residence room? Will family members be able to visit me throughout the year?
Yes, so students, as per our residence community standards, are able to host up to 2 guests at a time. We just ask that if you share a room with a roommate, that you chat with them first to make sure that works for them. And family members are able to come and visit if they're in the area, which is a change from how we had to do business last year. So it would be nice to kind of get back to some more normal ways to have visitors.
Great, thank you. All right, let's take a look. Can roommates be of the opposite identified gender?
No. So if you've identified, people have the option to identify as however they choose on the application. There's a variety of choices. And so if someone has chosen female, then the other person in the room would also be female or male. And so unfortunately, no.
Will there be social activities planned in residence? How will I meet friends and other people living on my floor?
Yes, there will definitely be social activities when you move in. So when you move in, you'll meet your residents, Dawn, who I've talked about a couple of times before. So they're an upper year student who lives in your community. One of the first activities that you'll take part in is your first community meeting. And in that meeting, you'll have the opportunity to meet with other students who are living in your community and sort of, you know, get started learning everybody's names and creating the agreements and the things that you want to work toward as a community. We are still confirming our plans for in-person activities, as I mentioned before. So we're working with public health and sort of trying to balance student safety with you know, the things that we are required to do. And so we will have more information about what in-person activities will look like closer to move-in day. So we are endeavoring to create as many social experiences as we can. And so the thing for sure to look forward to is that first community meeting, and then your residents, Dawn, will be creating a lot of other opportunities, both I think virtual and in person, to make sure that the floor is able to connect.
Right. Great. Thank you. And speaking of social activities, are we allowed to visit our friends on other floors or in other residence buildings?
Yes. So again, a similar question to, you know, we would consider anyone a guest that doesn't live on your floor or live in your room. So if you would like to visit people on other floors or in other buildings, you're welcome to do that, but guests are limited to 2 people at a time.
Okay. Is there a curfew time of when we can enter or leave our residence building at night?
There is not.
All right.
People can come and go as they please.
Perfect. All right. Next question here is, if we want a single room but end up with a double, can we change later in the year?
So after everyone has selected their room, so after the self-selection period has closed, we are going to open a room swap process in early August. So at that point, if you are able to find someone who would like to switch with you and you both confirm, we will make the swap. So you can go in to the process. You can see if anybody would like to change rooms. If you have a room that they're looking for, they have something that you're looking for, we can make that swap in the back end. We just need to make sure that both parties confirm. After move-in, there's also a room change process. And so once everybody moves in, you are able to submit your request to us, and then we move students if spaces become available. Right now, of course, every space is full. But if, again, we have 2 students who are looking for a swap or something like that, we're able to work through the list and make any accommodations that we can safely and that is manageable and that we have the space for.
Perfect. All right. Next question here is, how many students are in each self-selection slot?
That is a great question. I don't actually have the math on that. But with the modeling that we've done, we've tested and to make sure that we won't overwhelm the system. And so we know that it will be fine, but I don't actually have the answer to how many are in each group.
All right. I have dietary accommodations and require halal food. How will I indicate this for my meal plan?
Oh, go ahead, Becky.
Yeah, so that's a great question. We have a allergy and dietary intake form that is on, if you go to dining.queensu.ca, and you can follow the links there. If you fill out that form, it will alert us to your dietary needs, and then we will reach out to you, and you can actually make an appointment with our registered dietitian and with some campus chefs to learn more about the options that you will have when you come to campus. And I think that's a great resource, particularly before you arrive, because it helps you probably to feel a little bit more at ease about what your options will be. And it helps you to sort of build those relationships ahead of time. And then once you get here, as you navigate the dining hall, if you're finding it difficult to make selections, or if you're looking for something a little bit different, then you can meet with them again or meet with them for the first time, and to walk through sort of how to make the dining hall work best for you and for your individual needs, whether they be allergy or whether they be dietary needs.
Okay, great, thank you. If there's some questions about LLCs, so will we know in advance what building our LLC will be in? And if we are accepted into the LLC but don't want to live in that assigned building, can they choose another room?
So anyone who has applied for a living learning community as part of the application has been considered. And so the people will be selected to be part of the LLCs. When the self-selection period begins, that's when we'll let people know what buildings those are, and you're not able to opt out because that was part of the process.
Okay, great, thank you. Will there be restrictions on how many people can help you move in? Is that stuff that you know yet?
So we're still working on some of those details with public health. If anyone's aware, last year we did restrict that only 2 family members could help a student move in. We anticipate that we'll be able to expand that, and we also anticipate that we will be able to have student volunteers assisting with the move-in process as we have in previous years. But we're still confirming the details with our public health partners on those pieces.
Okay, perfect. More move-in information will be available at the beginning of August for students that are wondering. Okay, question here. My friend chose a double room. I chose a single room. Can they choose me as a roommate?
So unfortunately not. So with the preferences that people indicated on their application, that's how we determined how many spaces we had for people to live in residence, because we have different numbers of single rooms and double rooms. So we have made offers based on all the people that identified double and all the people that identified singles. So at this point, unfortunately not, but after the self-selection period takes place, if you want to engage in the room swap process, then that would be the best way to make a change.
Okay, perfect. We have some questions wanting to clarify the self-selection process, because online it says students will have 1 hour for their building/room selection. Will it only be 20 to 30 minutes? So if one of you could just clarify that.
It will be 20 to 30 minutes.
Okay.
But it's not, and that's it. Then you continue to have access after that time. It's just that the next group will begin approximately 20 to 30 minutes after that. It'll just be rolling all day.
Okay. Let's take a look. Which residence building is being used for isolation? Is there any information on that? Will there be an isolation building?
I can take that one. So we don't have a full building for isolation spaces this year, but we will have an isolation protocol. So similar to last year, we will post the isolation protocol on our website when it's complete. It's another one of those things that we are still working on with public health to make sure that we meet all of our requirements. But there will be isolation spaces in residence if we do need them. But again, looking at the vaccination rates in our population, and also again, our direction from public health, we are working out what that process exactly will look like. Once it is worked out, as I said, it will be on the website, and then it will be something that you learn very, very shortly after you arrive. So we will cover it in the first community meeting, and there will be lots of information pushed out to students so that everyone is familiar with what their responsibilities are with regard to the COVID isolation protocol. And then if things change for the year, of course, we will update students.
Okay, great, thank you. There are a couple questions about if the webinar is being recorded. The answer is yes. If you look at the second website that's on the screen right now, queensu.ca/nextsteps/home. If you go there in a couple of days, this webinar recording will be posted there. All right, question about vaccinations. What is going to happen if someone didn't opt to get vaccinated? Will that impact their residence experience?
No, so we're strongly encouraging people to be vaccinated, but it's not a requirement.
Okay, perfect. Is there any indications which rooms are carpeted or not so that they can choose a non-carpeted one? Is there any kind of filter process for that?
Yes, there's a filter to be able to see which rooms have carpet and which ones don't.
About quarantining, do we need to quarantine when we move to residence if we are fully vaccinated?
So there are quarantine requirements if you are traveling internationally to get here. We follow the federal government's regulations on that. So those regulations seem to be in flux over the summer. And so right now we do anticipate that international students will arrive, I think by the 23rd, or is it the 26th?
23rd.
23rd. Okay, I was right the first time. So international students will arrive as of the 23rd, and they will complete their required quarantine. But students arriving from within Canada are not required to quarantine when they get to residence.
And just to clarify, international students are able to quarantine with us should they choose to. But if you are an international student and have alternate quarantine plans, you're not required to quarantine with us. It's just an option, and it's available beginning August 23rd.
Okay. Will there be medical help available in residence or at Queen's in general for students?
So I'm going to try to answer this question. I'm not really sure that I'm not sure I understand the context, but there is on campus, there's student wellness services, which is a full medical service. So there are doctors there, and there are counselors, and this past year they did run a testing center, and they are intending to run a vaccination center in the fall. So that would be the place on campus that if you need to get your first or second dose of the vaccine, that you would be able to go there and do it. Or if you need any medical support, you can also do it at Student Wellness Services.
I would also add to that our residence dons are all trained in first aid, as is campus security and emergency services staff. And we are very, very close to the emergency room. So if you were asking about medical support more broadly, we are a walk away from Emerge, and our frontline staff have first aid training.
Perfect, thank you. Question about accessing the residence and dining portal. What is the website? How can students find that?
You can reach it on our website. And it's also, if you go to, hold on, I'm actually going to type it into my browser so that I don't get it wrong. I think we can post in the chat, so I will do that as soon as I confirm the actual link.
Okay, great, thank you. Some more questions about LLCs. Can I opt out of an LLC, or am I committed to that LLC if I'm accepted to it when given a selection date?
If you applied to your application and you are selected, then you're committed to it if you get chosen.
Okay, great. Question about single plus residence rooms. Will students be able to meet their roommate / the person that they're sharing a bathroom with?
So we haven't typically shared that information in the past, because we recognize that that is something that you're sharing the washroom with that person, but we do consider those to be single independent rooms. So that's not something we've done in the past. But I think I understand a few people have been asking about that. So it's something that we can look at.
Okay, great, thank you. We have some questions about dining halls. What are the capacities, and can I just go to them whenever I want? Are there specific hours, etc.?
So again, those details are a bit in flux. So there were altered dining hours last year because of restrictions due to COVID-19. So we were just working with our hospitality colleagues to get the updated hours. And we just weren't able to get them in time for the webinar today, but they'll be updated on the hospitality website, and they'll also provide further detail about capacities and what the options are there.
Okay. Which buildings include ACs and heaters, and are we able to control the temperature in our rooms in residence?
So I think the best place to get that information, to be really specific, is to go through the building pages and see where those are listed. And if you have further questions, I think the best place to connect with us is through live chat. I don't have that kind of detail at my fingertips at the moment, unfortunately.
All right, and kind of a similar question, because of COVID-19, has air circulation improved in the older buildings, and what kind of work is being done for that?
So there's a whole campus group that look at those, that, you know, consider all of the different things to think about related to COVID-19. And so I know that air circulation has been on the list. And so it's been discussed, and I don't have any updates at this time, but I know that colleagues and people who have the expertise are considering and making sure that we're being safe.
All right, thank you. Questions about appliances and what students are and not allowed to bring to residence. I don't know if either of you would like to speak to that.
So lots of people choose to bring a mini fridge. I would suggest, if you're considering bringing one, that you wait and pick your room first, because some buildings do have mini fridges in the room. So you probably don't want to. Maybe you do, but probably not. So I would pick your room first and make sure you're aware of what amenities are available in your room. So if you'd like to bring a mini fridge, you're welcome to. Any other appliances are not permitted to be used in your room. So even a blender or a kettle or a toaster, you can have those items, but you have to use them in the common room. The buildings don't have the kind of electrical capacity to be able to handle everyone using appliances in their rooms. So that's why those measures are in place, as well as for fire safety reasons.
Perfect, thank you. And I did just want to mention, so for students who are wondering about the residence and the dining portal, the website is studentweb.housing.queensu.ca, and you can access it using your Queen's Net ID and your password. All right, is there a required quarantine for out-of-province students? And if so, what does that look like?
There's not. At this time, there is not.
Okay, perfect. All right, are floor bathrooms mixed gender? And if not, is there a gender neutral bathroom?
I can see Kate lighting up for that. I don't know. So I can answer that one. As we've said a few times, each building is very different. And so some buildings have gender neutral washrooms or all gender washrooms. Other buildings have gendered washrooms. Our single plus buildings have a washroom in between two bedrooms. So you really, I think the best thing to do to know building specific is to look at our building pages on our website, and you'll be able to see, as Kate mentioned, where the washrooms are located, which also might impact your room choice, and also the types of washrooms that are available.
Okay, and speaking of shared bathrooms and single plus residence rooms, if there is like a lock on the shared bathrooms, like how does that work? Can the person access your room, etc.? Can they walk in on you in the bathroom, stuff like that?
So currently, because of fire code, the washrooms lock. Let me think about this. When you're in there, but there aren't locks on the other side of the door. And so the CanMate situations sort of operate as if they were a double room. But of course, the washroom is in the center. So because of the way that our fire code is currently written, there are not locks on the other side of the doors.
Okay, thank you. If we encounter any problems with self-selection, like any loading problems or the selection doesn't work for some reason, what can we do about that if that happens?
Yeah, so either email us, reshouse@queensu.ca, or contact us via live chat, which is available Monday to Friday, 8:30 to 4:30. And the self-selection times will be within those time periods as well, so that we are available to you to support the process.
All right, perfect. Is it possible to see what buildings are still available ahead of our self-selection time, especially if we have a late time? So, you know, students are not like looking at buildings that are no longer available?
I don't believe so. This is a new process for us, so this is our first time using self-selection. And from what I recall of the process, I don't believe you don't have access to that information until you log in.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. There's a question about quiet time in residence. Is there one?
Yes. So when you have as many people as we do all living together, there are some community standards that we expect everyone to adhere to. And Kate mentioned them earlier. And when you do choose a room for self-selection, you will have an opportunity to review our community standards so that you know what you're signing on to. In general, other than the study floor, which is one of the preferred communities, for our general residences, we call them quiet hours. So quiet hours during the week start at 11 and end at 7 in the morning. And then over the weekends, they start at 1 a.m. And so again, this just allows for people to productively study and sleep in residence as well. And when you have that many people all living together, I think it is an important thing for us to have. Totally understanding that many of you who are living perhaps at home or elsewhere right now don't necessarily have quiet hours. But I also bet if you asked if you're living with other people, if there are sort of unspoken quiet hours at home, they probably do exist. And so we just try to mirror that so that everybody is able to get a good night's rest and be academically successful in residence.
Perfect, thank you. There's a question about dining. What kind of foods do the chefs cook? Is there ethnic foods that are included in the dining halls? Stuff like that.
I'm gonna let Becky take that one too.
Yeah, sorry, I was struggling with the mute button. So there are rotating menus in each of our dining halls. And as I mentioned earlier, there are also a number of retail locations. And so there is quite a bit of variety. And our dining hall staff also work very closely with some of our programming staff to create different theme nights and things around that. And then the other thing that I would say is there's lots of opportunity for students to offer feedback. And so if there is something in particular that you would like to see, or if you have any sort of feedback at all, you are welcome to either schedule a meeting with someone in hospitality, or there are lots of different opportunities to fill out comment cards and different things like that. So we know that food is really important in a student's life. And I mean, in my life too, it can make or break my day. And so we really do want to be responsive and inclusive with the menu items that we're offering. And so we are very confident that we're able to meet every student's needs and make dining an enjoyable experience for your time in residence. And so if you have feedback, there are lots of ways to give it, and it's on our information about that is on our website as well.
Okay. Is there a specific type of router that you need to bring to hook up to the Wi-Fi? Do I need to bring a router in general?
This is another one of those building specific questions. So different buildings have different Wi-Fi capabilities. Some buildings like Smith and Brant have Wi-Fi already in the rooms. Other buildings do require a router. So this information again is on our building pages. And then we have information about different types of routers that work best depending on the different buildings and that sort of thing. So I would wait until you choose your room in self-selection so that then you'll know whether or not you'll need to purchase a router. And then when you do move in, we have on-site assistance. If you do run into any issues setting up your router, we have people who will be able to be on site and to help you make that happen.
Okay, thank you. A scenario question here. I chose a single room, but my friend chose a double room. If their number is higher than mine and can choose their room first, can they select me as a roommate?
No, so I think we answered a very similar question to that earlier. So people that identified a double as their preference when they applied will only have access to double rooms, and people that identified a single plus will have access to those to both of those room types. So those are the preferences that we will be going with when we open the self-selection process.
Okay, great. Thank you for clarifying. Question about laundry. How does that work in residence?
So every residence has laundry facilities. Some are on the floor, some are a larger laundry room to accommodate multiple floors. Again, it's one of those building specific things in terms of where the laundry is located and how that works. But generally speaking, at Queen's, you get a laundry card when you move in, and that's something that you will be able to load funds onto. And then that card will help you to access the laundry facilities in your building. So there are card refilling stations over residence, and the company that we work with also is working on development and sort of fine-tuning an app as well. So that might be available to you, again, depending on where you live. But you will be provided with a laundry card when you move in, and that will get you access to the machines.
Okay, thank you. Question about meal plans. Some people were wondering, when did they do this? Does it start if you move in, September 1st? Will you have access to the meal plan, or does it start after? And if not, is there something that students can do in between?
Yes, we promise to feed you when you arrive. So your meal plan will start for dinner the day that you move in. So the dining halls will be open and ready to serve on the first for that dinner meal. We do encourage on move-in. There are a lot of people, there's a lot of things going on. And so definitely bring snacks. We will, as Kate said, post what our hours of operation will be once they're solidified and once we get a little bit closer. But my general approach to life, but certainly to move-in day, is to bring some snacks. But yes, as soon as you move in, you'll be welcome at dinner, and typically communities go to dinner together as part of the welcome to residents.
Totally, yeah. Move-in is exhausting, carrying your mini fridges up the stairs. Bring snacks. That's good advice. Question about floor plan maps. I think you answered that, but if you just want to clarify where students can find them.
So they are on our website on each individual building page. I was exploring there earlier today, and I was noticing they were taking a while to load. So you might need to be patient. And also on our end, I think we need to just check with our IT folks. But they are there. But I did notice that there was a bit of a lag earlier. So we'll look into that on our end.
Okay, great. Thank you. Let me take a look. So earlier we talked about having filters when selecting a room. So like if a room is carpeted or not. Could you maybe talk about what other filters are available when selecting a room?
I'm trying to remember. Again, it's a new process for us. So I know that carpet free is one of the filters, and I believe a private washroom is another filter. And I think, and then there are many folks that have an accommodation for a single room, but of course that's already built into the system. So I think those are the main filters that are available.
Okay, thank you. Approximately how many people live on a floor in residence?
It really depends on the building. Again, they're very unique, each building. So it could be anywhere from 15 to I think up to about 40. It depends. We kind of, sometimes if there's a lot more people on a floor, we might break it into two communities. So there would be two dons and they kind of do their own thing. But I think our largest would be about 40.
Okay, great. Question about accommodations. Do students with accommodations get priority in the lottery, or are appropriate rooms just reserved for students with accommodations?
Yeah, we'll make sure that anyone that has an approved accommodation will have the type of room that meets their accommodated need when they select.
Okay, thank you. If I end up not getting along with my roommate, will I be stuck with them for the rest of the year, or can I change rooms?
So there is a room change process that'll open after move-in in September. And so if you're unhappy for any reason, so maybe you picked a building and it's not what you expected, or maybe you're having a conflict with your roommate, or could be a variety of other things, you can make a room change request. Sometimes it takes a while to, there may not be other available rooms. So we do consider those requests, but I think it's also important to note that residents will be full at that time. And so it may take a while, or it may not happen if you're looking for a change. So I think that's another really great opportunity to connect with your Don and talk to your Don about the challenges that you're having with your roommate, and to maybe do some communicating with that person and figure out what the issues are, and also try to resolve it that way. We're recognizing that that doesn't always work, but that's what we would always encourage as a first step.
Okay, great, thank you. So I think we have time for about one more question, and it is about self-selection. So to access the self-selection process, will there be a link in an email, or do we need to log into a specific website? If so, how can we access the website? Do we use our net ID, etc.?
So when you receive, we will be emailing everyone their date and time next week, the week of the 5th. And so it'll have, more detail about what to do and where to go. But the place to log in is on the student residence and dining portal, which you can access through the website that I think was put in the chat earlier.
Okay, thank you. So thank you everyone for your questions. I recognize that there are some that are unanswered. So I was just wondering if Kate or Becky, if students have questions that weren't answered today, where can they go for more information?
Yes, so we encourage you to contact us at reshouse@queensu.ca, RESHOUSE at queensu.ca, or to connect with us through our live chat function, which is accessible through our website, which is also on the screen right now, the residences.housing.queensu.ca, and live chat is available Monday to Friday, 8:30 to 4:30, and some of the folks that are on live chat are here answering questions tonight as well. So that would be great. The other thing I wanted to mention is that, and I know Veronica is going to do a little bit of a promo for some more upcoming webinars, but we will also be doing residence. We'll be doing a webinar, residence and dining, as part of SOAR. And so I think we really wanted to focus today on self-selection, knowing that that's what's coming next, but we'd also like to talk to you more about what living in residence is about and what that's like. And so we'll be doing that during the SOAR period as well, the SOAR.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. So that being said, we are going to end our time here. On our slide here, for more information about residence, you can visit their website on the screen now, residences.housing.queensu.ca. And for more information about Queens and what your next steps are, you can go to the Next Steps website. So queensu.ca/nextsteps/home, which has a lot of great information to ensure that students and parents and supporters are prepared for the fall. And like Kate mentioned, a bit of promo. We do have one last webinar of our June webinar series, and that is going to be our upper year student Q&A panel on Thursday, July 8th from 3 to 4 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. During this webinar, you'll be able to hear from upper year students about what it is like transitioning to university, taking classes, how to get involved, and more. You can register for this webinar on our Next Steps website. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming today.